Barbenheimer is finally upon us. Both Barbie and Oppenheimer released in theaters on July 21st, and people have a lot to say about both movies. Today we're going to be talking about my review of Barbie. Barbie has definitely sparked a lot of discussion on the internet about this movie. A lot of people saying a lot of things about it on two extremes of the political standpoints because, to be fair, this movie has brought its battle to the political field because it chose to go there in terms of what it had to say about politics and society and the country of America. So therefore it is fair that people are bringing a lot of politics into the discussion, since Barbie itself brought politics into the conversation. But I mean, it's not a political thing, it's a movie, so we have a lot to talk about movie-wise. So today I'm going to be giving my review of Barbie for you to enjoy. I've got 3 points, as always, I'd like to discuss today, and Barbie is a beautiful demonstration, the perfect examination of what it means to be human. Maybe not super perfect. There's a few problems that the movie has, but we're going to get into all that today. I think what's throwing a lot of people off about this movie, something that people are criticizing it for, and I think isn't fair criticism, is people are confused about why this movie is not made for kids, because people are saying that Barbie dolls are usually made for young girls to play with, and girls play with them when they're, young and children. And this movie is not at all made for children, not because it's super crass or vulgar and inappropriate or anything like that, just because the topics that are discussed and the vocabulary used, the way the characters speak, is with the assumed knowledge that you already know about these complicated issues in society, like patriarchy or fascism or all these other things that the movie throws out there, with the assumed knowledge that you already know about them. So this movie is not all made for kids. A lot of people are going to maybe take their kids to it, and their kids are just not going to understand it. It's funny. The movie is a very funny movie, so there's some laughs to be had, but I think a lot of the laughs would probably maybe not be understood by a younger audience. That's what I would say is a lot of people's criticism, and I understand that, but this movie was not at all even originally started out. I didn't think it was going to be made for kids. I knew it was going to be made for adults. Not because it was going to be, again, super inappropriate or crass. There's not a lot of cursing or language or vulgar jokes or anything like that. It's dealing with complicated issues that are for adults to think about, not something that kids should be, exposed to, because it's for adults who have already formed their own opinion on these things and are just challenging you to think a certain way, think differently, or think about these issues more in depth, and really just think for yourself what you think about a lot of things. So, with that said, I would say that is an issue that people have, and I personally don't have a problem with it because I really enjoyed the movie. Now, I'm 16, I'm not an adult, but I did understand this movie, and I did understand what it was trying to say, maybe more than a few people did. Today we're going to be thinking about really what was this movie trying to say, and examining in depth all of the messages that this movie has. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the powerful themes for women. Now, being a Barbie movie, this movie is obviously made for women, females, people of the female gender, because Barbie dolls are usually primarily played with girls. So it's for the girls who played with Barbie dolls, and now you've grown up in the real world, and you've seen society and seen culture, and you've grown up and seen all the complicated things that life, as being a human being, has to offer. And this movie is about all of that. So I really enjoyed this movie for the themes that it has and the messages it has for women. Not just for women, but for men, and we'll get to that in a second. But the themes for females that it has in this movie are something I'd like to say is I appreciated. As a man, I still got stuff out of this movie, and I thought it was just great to see. The movie can get preachy as it gets into the third act, and the rule of thumb for film is always show, don't tell, right? If you have a message you want to convey, show it through the storyline and have it be conveyed through the characters realizing things as they go along in the storyline, rather than just having your message be spoken by the characters, because it's much more impactful when the characters learn lessons and go on a journey and discover things for themselves, rather than just having characters say things that changes the character arc or whatever. So this movie definitely falls flat in that aspect. I think the messages that the movie was trying to convey would be more impactful if they didn't have segments where characters are just preaching to the audience, because no matter if the people agree with you or not, it's going to turn people off, because it does just get like, okay, you can stop talking now, America Ferrera. It doesn't detract from the fact that what the person is saying are right or wrong, or if you agree with that person. Just having someone preaching to you can get a little stale after, in the way that it's presented. And this movie has a long monologue, so it has a lot that's trying to say, and it does convey it through speech, primarily a lot of the time. So I do wish there was a way that the movie could have found to express its message through the story more, instead of just finding ways to present opportunities for the characters to just speak the message to the camera. But the messages it does have about the standards that women are faced with from men, but also from other women. The standards that are put upon them, they are not defined by those standards. They live to be their own self. They have their own value. And tackling the idea of this Barbie doll, who some people have criticized for Barbie being an unrealistic standard of beauty for women. She's conventionally attractive. So maybe it presents a beauty standard that women cannot always live up to, and then making them feel not as beautiful or good looking in the sense that they can never live up to, and they feel like they can never live up to this idea of conventional beauty that Barbie presents as the Barbie doll. And attacking that idea and deconstructing it, I thought was an interesting direction to take, and I appreciate that, because really your beauty and your worth and your existence is not tied to what the standards of what the other gender or what the other people of your same gender have tried to put on you. Your beauty and your worth is defined not from any of those things. You should not be looking for your worth or looking to be defined by the standards that men or other women put on women. So there's a lot to deal with that women have to deal with, because life is hard. Being human is tough. There's a lot of things to experience, and there's a lot of things to learn from, and people make mistakes, and there's a lot to navigate in life because it's complicated. So I did appreciate the messages that this movie had for just the beauty of being a woman, and I appreciate it. I thought it was a good, empowering message for women. And I appreciated what the movie was trying to say about the standards and the things that women have to live up to. They feel like they have to be suppressed by or limit themselves to, or confined to, fit into in society and in the culture. So I thought that was very empowering messages. And just the montage where Barbie's looking at life, looking at women, living their life, and seeing the beauty of it, seeing the pitfalls of it, but also seeing the heights and the great majesty of it, I think were powerful sequences when Barbie decides that spoiler alert, by the way, if you haven't seen the movie, you should probably go check it out. I would recommend that you do. It's making a lot of money right now, and a lot of people are seeing it, so I would recommend you check it out, just to see what you think about it. But these sequences, these montages, by the end of the movie, when she decides to become a human, she wants to be human, because she sees that life is so much more than the society that was the Barbie world in the beginning of the movie, where women and the Barbies run everything and the Kens are just kind of there. Both genders being primarily, predominantly in charge, ruling over the other one, and not giving the other one any opportunity to have any say or power or worth in anything. Both of those, both when Ken takes over with the patriarchy and when just the Barbies running everything, both are a wrong image of what a society should be, because men and women are both equal, and they both should have say and power in a society, because they're both awesome and unique in their own ways. So when Barbie decides, she sees the real world, she sees the pitfalls of it, she sees the hardships and the things that come with life. Life is change, as America Ferrera's character says. She sees that she wants to be a part of that, because that means so much more, and it's so much fuller of an experience of life to be human, to experience these things, than it is to live in a society that is cookie cutter and totally one way or totally the other on two opposite extremes, because it's a much fuller experience than what she has experienced in Barbie Land. That's her arc as stereotypical Barbie. The whole movie, she just wants things to stay the way they are, because she doesn't see anything wrong with them. But after she sees real life and she has a taste of what life should be and what life is, she decides that she wants to be much more a part of that than Barbie Land. And by the end, the Barbies are they're trying at least, because they see there's things wrong with their society. The Kens are just there. They don't really have a place to live. The Barbies are running everything, but they are trying by the end of the movie. And it's all in a joking, jovial manner, because the movie is a comedic satire. So the way characters act is not always meant to represent how characters or people act in the real world. Because saying, when Barbie goes to the real world and Ken goes to the real world, and these guys are all catcalling Barbie and like, ooh, hey, and like, give us a smile, Blondie. Like, people don't talk like that. Nobody says, give us a smile, Blondie. Nobody says that. Nobody talks like that in real life. It's not meant to portray how people actually act in the real world, but because it's a comedic satire. It's using stereotypes or caricatures or parodies of real life people to make its point. And I think what its point is something that's beautiful, something that's human, something that's amazing. And I loved the message in this movie, even if the way they conveyed it with preaching and America Ferrera's character getting a little carried away by the end of the movie, and certain characters just speaking. The end kind of drags a little bit. It's a messy movie for sure. It tries to tackle everything, so it gets a little lost and it's very confused on what it wants to be. If it would have just picked stayed in this one lane, I think it would have been much more effective. So it's not a perfect movie, but the messages that it does convey, the things that it does get out there, and the things you can take away from this movie, I think are very important and very special. So the messages it had for women, I think, were awesome. Real quick before we move on, I'd like to say, please, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like on this video. It really helps me out. And comment down below what you thought of Barbie or what you thought about the things I said in this video. I'd really appreciate it. And maybe even if you see other videos that you like by me, subscribe and turn on notifications for the channel. I'd really appreciate it. Because I think that if you like this video and like some of the other ones, you'll definitely continue to like my videos as I post them. So you want to be the first to watch them. If you do that, thank you very much.
Hi, Barbie!
Hi, Ken!
So now let's talk about the men aspect of this movie. Ken was definitely a scene stealer. Number one thing you hear people talking about when they talk about this movie is Ryan Gosling as Ken, because he stole the show. He was phenomenal. He was funny. He was endearing. He was lighthearted. He was definitely one of the best parts of the movie, by far, in my opinion. And Ken is the B plot here, but it's a plot that has seemed to gain a lot of tension on the internet of people saying what it was supposed to be, or that it's a men-hating story, that Ken is just whiny and he's submissive and he's not what a man should be. But I think that's kind of Ken's lesson and his message in this movie. That's his character arc. Because the thing that a lot of people forget to remember is portrayal is not endorsements, which what I mean by that is just because a movie shows something happening and just because this is a comedy and we're laughing about it doesn't mean that it's portraying that as right. I think that's kind of what the message is. Ken, at the beginning of the movie, is obsessed with Barbie's every move. He just like the narrator says, Ken only has a good day if Barbie looks in his direction or if Barbie gives him any sort of attention. That defines whether or not he has a good day or not. Ken is literally obsessed with what Barbie thinks of him, what Barbie, who is a woman, Ken is a man, or two Ken doll, Barbie doll. He's literally obsessed with what she thinks of him. He's obsessed with what the other gender standards for him are. So the message of the movie for both men and women is that neither are confined to the limits or the standards that the other gender puts upon them. So Ken, by the end of the movie, learns, and I wish there was a way that he would have learned this, again, through the story, instead of just having a conversation with Barbie and seeing that she... I guess he does learn through the story, because Ken goes to the real world, experiences the patriarchy, and sees that in the real world, gender doesn't matter, because he walks into a man and says, oh, men rule everything, so I would like a high-paying, high-influence job. And the guy they talk to says, well, do you have a degree? Did you graduate high school? You have to have these things. You still have to put in the work. It doesn't matter what gender you are. You still have to put in the work in order to be successful, no matter what gender you are. So Ken realizes this, and he says, you guys aren't doing patriarchy very well. So then he takes that idea because he likes it, and he's innocent and naive, so he doesn't know. And he takes it back to Barbie Land, and he takes over the whole thing and turns it into Kendom. And the Kens rule everything, and the Barbies are subjected to not having very much power at all in Kendom. So I thought this was a very interesting twist. I was not expecting the movie to go in this direction at all, but I was pleased with the way they handled it because it shows the other extreme, which I appreciated. So one extreme, Barbies rule everything, Kens don't do much. Other extreme, Kens rule everything, Barbies don't do much. And you can see in the movie demonstrated both equally don't work because both are not right. Both men and women should be equal because they are both awesome and amazing in their own ways and powerful and strong in their own ways. So when Ken does the patriarchy and he turns it into Kendom, then he realizes that doesn't work because then the Barbies are easily... The tides of power in Barbie Land are easily shifted back and forth. It's kind of funny how easily they're shifted back and forth. But the Barbies... For whatever reason, Ken... there are plot holes in this movie. Ken walks in, sees his power of Barbie Land, and then holds a vote to change the Constitution, because I guess he still does care about laws, but I don't think too much of it because, again, the movie is a comedy, so it's like having these funny comedic situations in order to set up what the movie's message is. So I didn't mind it, but you can point out plot holes in this movie. It isn't perfect. There's things that don't make sense. I really don't understand what Will Ferrell's character's point was. I guess more to demonstrate the message of he's trying to put his standard on Barbie, on who she should be. Because at the end, what's Barbie's ending? And he says, well, she's in love with Ken. He's trying to decide what she should be, and she's not confined to what he thinks she should be because he's a man, and she's a woman, and she's perfectly entitled to doing what she wants, not confined to what Will Ferrell thinks his character. So I guess that's what his message was. But I didn't really understand what his point was. He's just kind of there. He's not an imposing threat in any way. He's funny. He's hilarious because he's Will Ferrell, and Will Ferrell is never not funny. So I laughed every scene he was in, and every joke he said landed, but I really didn't understand what his point was. So that's a plot hole you can point out in the movie. He doesn't really do much, but so Will Ferrell was funny. I liked him in the movie. I'm glad he was included. He really elevated the comedic parts of the movie, but I don't understand what he was there for. At the end, Ken realizes that the patriarchy doesn't work at well, and the Barbies change everything back to the way it was. But again, they're still trying to make it a better place and give the Kens more power by the end of the movie. So they are trying, and that's the important thing. But Ken realizes that he is Kenough, which is a weird word to say. Every time I say it, I'm like, that doesn't sound right, but it is a nice play on words. So he is enough. Ken is enough, completely separate and not dependent on what Barbie thinks Ken should be. Ken is free to decide what Ken thinks Ken should be. Not at all focused on what Barbie wants, because Barbie doesn't matter what Barbie thinks. Ken should decide for himself. And I thought that was a great message for men. He is enough. He is Ken-off. So it's Barbie and it's Ken. But that's the thing. Nobody played with their Ken doll when they had one. I didn't play with Barbie, so I don't have that added nostalgia aspect, I guess. But I don't know what it's like to play with Barbie dolls, because I never did. I don't have sisters. I don't play with Barbie dolls. So, but from my understanding, nobody played with their Ken doll. He doesn't even have his own dream house. It's Barbie's dream house. So Ken is a side character. So literally in the Barbie existence, the idea is that Ken is not, he's separate. So that's the arc that he goes on in this movie, and I thought it was a good one. I thought that was a great message. I don't understand why people are saying that it's a weak or it's degrading, it hates men. I could see, I guess, why you would think that, but it's a complicated movie, so you really have to think about what the movie's trying to say, and that's just what I got out of it. So I thought it was, personally, a great message for men and for women.
Humans only have one ending.
Get that Barbie!
Ideas live forever.
So all in all, an aspect we haven't talked about yet is Sasha and Gloria, their role in this movie. This portrays, encapsulates what the message the movie is trying to be, which is what it means to be human. Both men and women deal with super hard things every single day. It's hard to be a human and live on this planet, but what is the thing that makes being human worth it and makes it awesome? It's not just in spite of these things, these hard everyday things that we all experience as human beings, that we have to deal with, these hardships and troubles and things that happen that we don't want to happen, changes in plans and the unknown, which is scary and unexpected. What is ultimately the thing that makes it worth it is that people are trying. So by the end of this movie, Barbie wants to be a human because she sees that it's worth trying to make the world a better place. It's worth living life as a human because it's worth trying to be the best possible version of yourself and not living and being content with the way things are when you don't think things are right. And when you can obviously, now she has this knowledge that the way Barbie Land is run isn't right. So she will love to go into the real world and try to be a better person, make the world a better place, and that's worth it. And Sasha and Gloria's character are a perfect encapsulation of that because they're just normal people living in the real world. And Gloria, as a mom, all she's trying to do is just, like she says, make it through the day feeling half decent about yourself, because people experience a lot every single day. But what makes it worth it and what makes life living is trying to make the world a better place, trying to do your best, and that's what encapsulates being a human. So their inclusion to the plot, I think, was an important one. It was a necessary one, and it encapsulated more of the message of the movie because they're just an ordinary family. She's not a president or a big influencer or whatever. She's just a mom who's trying to raise her daughter, and she's got a lot going on. She's trying to keep a job, but she's trying, and that's the important thing. And she's just an ordinary person, and who liked Barbie dolls. She was inspired by Barbie dolls. So I thought their character and their storyline was endearing, and I liked it. And the movie, again, so it just encapsulates that to be human, what it is to experience hard things, is to deal with standards, deal with limitations, deal with the preconceived notions that people have of you. When Barbie goes to the real world, every guy is just catcalling her, which is not how people act in real life. Not all dudes are like that, obviously. In fact, I think it's a select few of dudes who are just super gross people. But there are gross people out there. It's using these stereotypes to portray the message that it is hard because people do have preconceived notions of you. They have standards. They have ways they think you should act or feel or be. But ultimately, that doesn't matter. And then what matters is that you're trying to do your best every single day and do what you think is right and do what you think would be the best possible version of yourself and trying to do the right thing. So that's ultimately what being human is. And that's what the movie's trying to convey. And I thought that was a great message to convey. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very funny. It was very colorful and light. The production design, obviously awesome. The costumes Barbie wears are cool. Everybody has great costume design. Every single actor in this movie does a fantastic job with their performance. It really was. It was an entertaining movie. Definitely the music. I liked the Dance of the Night by Dua Lipa, but the rest of the songs, I don't know, they're kind of forgettable in my opinion. The soundtrack is fine. The music I thought composing was good. When Barbie looks at the old woman on the bench, she sees this old woman sitting next to her. She says, "You're beautiful." And the woman says, "I know." Barbie's never seen an old person before, but she sees the beauty in this woman who isn't worried about what other people think or what other people think she should be as a woman, and she's fine with that, and she's fine with her. So that really encapsulates what the message of the movie is. And Barbie sees what life is. It's hard. She sees people crying. When she's looking at this bench, she's looking at the people that she sees happiness, she sees sadness, she sees division and all of this stuff, but she still by the end of the movie decides that that's something she wants to be a part of because she sees that that's much more of a fuller experience than anything she could have dreamed in Barbie Land. I think that's a great message. I think it's powerful. I think it's nice. And it's mostly for women. I shouldn't have to be saying this part about men because it's not really for men. It's for women. But it's still, with the messages the movie portrays, it's still human. The messages that apply to women can also be taken. You can take things out of it as a man, and as the messages for men, you can also take out of it as a woman. So it's just a story about being human. Those are Greta Gerwig's exact words. It is a story about being human, and I think it encapsulated that pretty well. And I think the message is a great one, and it's a great example, a great exercise for you if you don't agree with everything in the movie, because there's things in this movie I probably don't agree with. Probably some things that are said that I don't think are true, or things that the criticisms I have with the movie. It's definitely not a perfect movie. It's kind of a mess. It kind of tries to tackle everything, like I said. It doesn't exactly do all of it to the fullest of its potential. I wish it could have been a little better. I do think that it has its heart in the right place. At least from what I see, this movie could be totally trying to say something different, and I didn't get that out of it. But this is what it seems to me that the movie is trying to say, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm pleased that a movie like this exists because it's a great exercise for you to see what you agree with and what you don't agree with, because movies are not black and white. That's just not true. There are things to appreciate, there are things maybe you don't agree with or don't appreciate or don't like, and that's okay. But it's important to pick and find out for yourself what the things that you do agree with are and what the things you don't agree with are. Make sure that's your own opinion and not all influenced by anyone else's opinion, and don't just go and blindly follow other people's opinions on what they think. You should form your own opinion and decide for yourself and watch the movie and really think about what the movie's trying to say, because this movie brings up some topics that I think should be discussed, should be thought about, important topics, but complicated topics that make you think. They make you think about things. So I think they're important to discuss, though. They're important for you to think about. So you should go see the movie and decide for yourself what you think about all these things, because I think they are important topics that the movie brings up, and important topics for you to decide for yourself what you think about them. So I thought it's great in that aspect, and I appreciate that a movie like this exists and that is doing something like that. I think that's a great thing for a movie to do. I love to think, so I love it when a movie gives me a lot to chew on intellectually, like this movie does. I saw it twice because the first time I wasn't totally sure what the movie was trying to say, but I was eager to find out and discover for myself what I got out of the movie, what the movie was trying to say. And other people are getting other things out of this movie. They're finding other messages. They think the movie's trying to say something else, and that's completely fine. But I think that's a good thing because there's enough there in the movie. There's enough meat for you to get your own thing out of it. You can get your own message or take something away that maybe other people don't take away from the movie. I think that's awesome, and that's fine. It's okay to disagree. It's okay to discuss and try to, form your own opinion, but you should always be unbiased and not let other people decide what your opinion is or take people blindly at their word. Because I've seen a lot of people who told me about what they think of a movie that they haven't seen. They haven't seen Barbie, but people are telling me things about it that I just don't think are true. Politically, and again, the movie brought it onto that playing field because it is talking about politics and it does go into that realm, so it is fair. But a lot of people haven't even seen it, so they're just having preconceived notions, which goes against the message of the movie. So there you go. There's my thoughts on Barbie. There's an exploration of the human existence, and I think it did a great job at exploring human existence. It wasn't perfect. There's quite a few errors, and there's plot holes and things that are not really explained. The movie is a little bit of a mess, kind of a mess, a big mess. But it does have its heart in the right place. There is definitely a better version of this movie that exists somewhere in there. And they didn't quite find it, which I am disappointed about because I think this movie has a ton of potential to have been more than what it is. But what the movie we did get, I did appreciate and I did really enjoy. I think it really is a great exploration of the human experience. And it is funny, really funny. I was laughing out loud a lot of moments. It has great characters, great acting. It's smart. It's a smart movie. Maybe a little too smart for its own good, though, because it tried to do a little too much. But all in all, very great movie. I would highly recommend you see it if you haven't yet. So there you go. That's my review of Barbie. Make sure to comment down below what you think about the Barbie movie. Did you like it? Did you hate it? What did you get out of it? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye-bye.